So I'm going to introduce you to someone I think you'll all know when you hear him. This is Alive 90.5. And on this special occasion, we're trying to win that record as far as the Guinness Book of Records. I want to introduce you to a very well-known 2GB presenter. Also, his name is known all around Australia. Politically, yes, don't laugh at me, Michael.
You're being overly generous.
Oh, yeah. That's the trouble with you, Michael. You're always like that. You always don't believe that you're as big as what you are. But Michael Pachi, welcome to the world of radio, and this is Alive 90.5. How are you, Michael?
I'm very well, Dominic. How are you? And I'm glad to be on Alive 90.5 and this Guinness World Record that Mario's trying to break.
Great. And listen, no politics tonight. Right, no politics. Don't tell us who's going to win, who's not going to win, how Albanese's going, and why he shouldn't be elected after the last. This is not on, mate. We're talking about you. You're the person. And say hello to Mario Bekes. He's the one.
He's the one that's doing all the work.
Yeah, Mario's doing all the work. So Mario, say hello to Michael Pachi, well-known journalist,
hi,
TV,
Michael.
radio, the whole lot.
Hi, Michael Pachi, the journalist, the radio, TV presenter, TV celebrity, darling.
How are you, Mark? How are you going? How are you holding up?
I just want to go home. I have enough, because it's in total now 62 hours awake.
Yeah. And have you had to talk all that time?
No. It's I will say okay. So I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I started 11 o'clock. So that's I was not on air, but I was awake. So from the 56 hours, I would say I'll spend 53 and a half hours. So I had some breaks. I had some the food and the coffee, and that was it.
So do you think you're going to make it into the Guinness Book of Records?
The time will tell. I don't know. They're doing the judgment.
So how long have you got to go? Another half an hour?
Another hour and a half. So Dominic helps me. Yeah, so it's
so you had to keep the matchsticks in your eyes.
Yeah, it is. Trust me, it is. I'm in that now timing where I need to be more careful what I'm saying, because my brain is shuttered. It's literally shut it down, and
you don't have the dump button. You don't have the delay.
No. Come on, this is community radio. You're too used to commercial, man. Come on, that's get a life.
Yeah. So no, I don't have, but that's
this is the real deal, Michael.
I know my roots as well.
Yeah, let me tell you, folks. Tell them your roots. Let's get to know a little bit about Michael. Tell him your roots, Michael.
Oh, well, I was introduced to community radio by you. I mean, should we say it? It was, our station in Burwood.
Yep, that's right, 2RDJ. Yep.
So that's where I started, and it's moved on from there.
And
now I am at 2GB and the Nine Radio Network, and I've been there for a long, long time, and it's, been good, but... it is what it is. I mean, the media business is very different these days.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
And what about? Tell them your stories about. You were looking after the news at Fox, weren't you, for a while?
Yeah, I was at Sky News for a little while as well. So I was there for about 5 years, but mainly I've done radio. That's been my big thing over the last 20 years or so, and I was introduced to radio by the very famous Dominic Vozzo, which you're still doing the hit mix there on Alive 90.5.
Still 38 years doing hit mix.
There you go. The hit mix with Dominic Vozzo is still happening. That's just basically my story. I think I basically have done a teaching degree. I've taught history and English, and basically from there moved on, but basically pursued a media career, journalism career, and I started off at 2RDJ, moved into radio, did a bit at 2GB, did a bit at 2UE when it was still a talk station. Then
you looked after Mr. Alan Jones. You're not telling you're bypassing a lot of these guys. You looked after Alan Jones for a while, didn't you? You looked after his show.
I worked on that show for a little while. Yeah, I worked. That was an interesting period.
Yeah. No, don't go on about anything else, mate. That was an interesting period. Yeah.
So, you know, I've worked with a few people over the years, but look, you know, it sounds like, you know, it really sounds like I'm having, you know, a bit of a wank talking about this stuff. But, you know, you know, it's, no, look, it's a fun industry. It's a good industry. You meet interesting people. Some are good, some are bad, you know, like anything. But, you know, it's a job like anything else. Except it's one of those jobs, I suppose, you know, we have a bit of, I suppose you have a bit of fun doing it as well, but, you know, it's a job like anything else. I don't think we want to over-stipulate how, you know, over the top it is, because, you know, it can be a bit of a grind as well. And I think you can see that especially in community radio, where there's, I think, a real grind with a lot of, you know, volunteers in community radio, which really drive those sorts of stations.
One question I do want to ask you, because you've been in the media as much as you are, which way do you think the media's gone? Like, we know that Mario's really big on this, you know, podcasting. Just your opinion. And where are we going
Mario,
with radio?
You hit the nail on the head there. That's where it's all going. That's where it's all moving. It's podcasting, listen on demand, streaming. It's not just radio that's moving down that route. It's also TV. These days, most people watch TV on an app. They download, you know, SBS on demand, ABC iView, 7 Plus, 9 Now, 10 Play. You're downloading those apps and you're watching TV as you want to watch TV, when you want to watch TV. You catch up TV. And that's the same with radio. It's all about catch up radio, listening to shows when you want to listen to shows, not necessarily listening to stuff as it goes out live. I think that live is important, but these days, you know, people just want to listen to things when they want to listen to them. So I think radio has really had to evolve, and I think radio has very successfully evolved by being able to, you know, move into the podcasting world and basically driving that, you know, listen on demand. That's just the way things are going. Like a lot of industries, things change, and I think that that's where the media is really moving towards now. It's really moving towards this on-demand type of a feel where you can just do things when you want to do them, not necessarily listen live. Or if you missed something live, you can always catch up. So, Mario, you're on the right track when it comes
Thank you
to
so
podcasting.
Much. Thank you, Michael.
That's where it's at. So, Mario, just tell me about your story. Where are you from? Mario Bekes.
Here's the 2GB talkback. Here it is, 873 2GB. You got to plug it, haven't you, man?
Look, I'm just a humble man who has a big dreams. Look, just in a nutshell, you know, coming from Croatia, I've been part of Yugoslavia. I've been in that funny war for 8 years in Yugoslavia. I've been wounded a few times, and then eventually, when I want to end up my career, you know, they told me that this is not good for my health, so they extended me to diplomacy, foreign affairs, and after some certain education, they sent me to Australia, Croatian embassy in Canberra as a head of intelligence.
So you were working here in Canberra?
No anymore. No, I was working, and for 5 years, and 2003, I think myself. You know, I started my career very early at age 14. I was already 30 years old, and, you know, in communism, I started military school at age 14. So at age 18, I was in war. So yeah, I decided to start, you know, my own life in Australia, and, you know, first become the bouncer, the cabbies.
So were you a refugee? One of the refugees that came through?
No. I was come legally.
No. Okay. No, so you weren't part of that group?
No. I was coming here. I was being sent by Croatia.
You're always coming to Australia?
Yeah, as a diplomat, you know, as a head of the...
Yeah, I get it.
So, you know, and then I, you know,
decided to stay. Came here as a diplomat and worked as a diplomat in Canberra.
That's correct, yes. And then I decided to stay.
And then you decided to stay in Australia.
Yeah, after 5 years, I have enough, because I fall in love with Australia, I fall in love with many things, and... start building my career, eventually, you know, come to corporate world, and come GFC. GFC says to me, it's time to do something else. So I started my own business, investigations. And little by little, I realized that I want to say more, and the only way I can learn, I need to improvise, adjust. And what I did, I started community radio here on Alive, and you know, one thing is linked to another. I met great people as a mentors, Professor Klaus Smallman. He says to me, go to university, start writing books, and podcasting was a just natural extension for me, and that's the reason why I started doing this challenge last 56 hours to prove to people that impossible is possible, and it's time to leave the legacy always, you know,
That's something that you cannot. Yeah, that if you try, that anything's possible. It sounds as though you've led a very interesting life yourself, Mark.
That was just a circumstances, I mean, but in reality, I always say to people, you need to be careful what you wish for, because as a kid, I want to be a Rambo. I want to go in a war. The war happened. I mean, I said, okay, I want to be the spy, and when you wish something, I don't know how, universe, God, the midgets, unicorns, whatever it is, conspire against you, and you get what you want. And it's like, be careful, Mario, what you wish for. And it's like, and
how long have you been at Alive?
Alive. Now it's going to be 51 years old this year.
No. How long have you been there?
On a live radio station.
I know.
He's been 56 hours without sleep. Give him a break. You've seen the little yellow fellas, mate.
Yeah, green. The yellow's coming out. So on a live. I'm since 2018, end of the 2018.
Oh, right. So you've been there a while.
Yes, that's correct, sir. Yes, that's correct.
Right. At Alive 90.5.
Come on, give me a spot. Can you give me one of those ones I can put on my show, mate? This is Michael Pachi from Alive 90.5. Always listen to. Go and do it. Come on.
All right,
I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3.
This is Michael Pachi, and you're listening to Alive 90.5.
Oh.
Well done, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
There you go. On the phone, not even a studio quality one.
You've done well, mate. You've done well. Really well. Good to hear from you. We've got to get to lunch sometime, mate.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit overdue for lunch, Dom.
Listen, anything exciting happening? Or you can't tell me anything exciting happening to you apart from 2GB and Channel 9?
No, there's no excitement in my life. I just come in.
You haven't got married yet, or anything like that?
No, I haven't got married yet.
We've been talking about marriage for half an hour, mate.
That hasn't happened. So no. There's nothing exciting. I just come in, do the job, and go.
Yeah.
It's a bit boring, isn't it? But anyway, it is what it is.
Mate, you've always been an inspiration from me ever since I've met you and been with you at 2RDJ, mate.
No, same, Dom. You've been great.
I'll never forget the first news article you made with me at that 2RDJ. It was quite amazing listening to someone who could actually read the news at the time.
No, it's good. It's they're fun times, and it's definitely worth for people that are interested in media careers. Radio is probably one of the best ways of doing it. It's a great medium to learn and move on. I mean, and do other things within the industry if you want to pursue it, or move into other parts of the industry like Mario's doing with podcasting, because the media industry from when you and I first started, Dom, has changed dramatically from being just radio, TV and newspapers. It's not about that anymore. It's absolutely and utterly changed. In some ways for the good, because technology has to move on. In some ways, it also it's also been diluted to a certain extent as well. It's not it's not just about 3 mediums. It's about 5 or 6 mediums these days, and anyone can do anything.
And I'm going to ask you a very heavy question. You mightn't be able to answer it, actually. I'm going to tell you, how much of news is real news? Come on, you're in the middle of it. Don't lie.
Well, no. All the news that we do is real. I mean, there's not a lot for what I do. I'm not doing opinion. I'm doing straight news. And, from a straight news point of view, it is real. I mean, obviously everything's researched and, everything's checked and double checked and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's not as though it's made up. And for stations like, to be fair, it's just stations like 2GB in Sydney and obviously our network and 9. I mean, it's, they're serious news organisations, and there's a lot of work that goes into producing a news bulletin every hour. Everyone thinks that it's easy. It's not. There's a fair bit of work that goes into every single bulletin that you hear at the top of each hour. And then obviously programs are very different. A lot of that's about opinion and hosts giving their opinion on certain issues, and it's up to audiences to decide what they want to believe and what they don't want to believe in terms of an opinion that a host gives. But the news that people hear at the top of each hour, that's the real deal. There's no opinion in that. It's straight facts. And if you get it wrong, you have to correct it, and that there's no two buts about that. And also, I mean, if you get it wrong, and you've got to be careful about defamation and all those sorts of things, that you're not defaming people, because you can easily get caught up in legal action as well. So when it comes to straight news, it's the real deal, and radio news, and TV news for that matter, is probably among the probably the most trusted sources of news.
Fair enough. So there you go. And look, one last thing. Did you know what was going to happen in politics has happened over the last year and a half?
I didn't think. I had a feeling that if you're talking about Albanese winning the federal
be unbiased,
election,
because I know you're not. You're not.
No,
I know your
mean,
background.
Look,
but
I think that everyone
what
thought
did
it
you
was
think?
going to be a hung. Well, I think everyone at the time, and I said this on air as well, I thought it was going to be a hung parliament, so that neither side was going to win, and that they would need to do deals with either the Greens or the Independents. So I think the fact that Albanese was able to win in his own right was a bit of a surprise. I don't think that anyone thought that he would win in his own right, but he did. I think the biggest surprise of the election, if they're, the way I see it, is that I think that people didn't think that the Liberal Party would lose so many seats in places like Sydney, parts of Victoria, and in Brisbane, and even in Perth as well, to independents. That a lot of seats that were once, blue ribbon Liberal seats would be lost to independent candidates. And I think that was probably the big surprise of the night. And believe it or not, in 3 weeks' time, it's been 1 year since the federal election and 1 year since Anthony Albanese has been in charge. And to be fair, I actually think that he's come through okay.
I was going to ask you the question, mate, and you were going to ask you the question. Tell me your opinion the first year. What do you think?
He's come through well. I mean, he has. I mean, if we're going to be serious about it, the bottom line is he's been the Prime Minister for a year and he survived the year. Sure, we'll have to see how things work out over the coming years, but the bottom line is that Albanese has been the Prime Minister for 12 months, and I think that he's shepherded the economy and shepherded the country quite well. I mean, I don't know if, I'm not saying that, a live 90.5 listeners will necessarily agree, but I'm just giving you what I feel.
No, that's right. I'm just asking a general opinion, a personal opinion, not so much, from your professional, but just personal. I think you're right. I think he's done quite well for the first year.
For the first year, I mean, 2 years down the track, when the next election rolls around, maybe it's a different story. If people feel that they're still doing it tough and can't pay for their mortgage, or finding it tough to pay their mortgage, and cost of living isn't showing any sign of easing, and the cost of buying goods and services and paying for bills continues to go through the roof, well then maybe things might be different for Albo. But at the moment, I think he's done all right. And, this week he's off to London for the coronation of King Charles III. And, they're things that a Prime Minister does need to do. He needs to travel. We need to be seen on the global stage. And that's all part and parcel of our democracy.
I think he's done quite well overseas. I really do. I can't believe how much he's changed the overseas perception of Australia.
Well, yeah, and he's tried, and he's also tried to stabilise the relationship with China, and that was very important, because there was a lot of exporters, whether it be wine exporters, lobster exporters, barley exporters, all these people that were exporting into China, that for the last couple of years have not been able to get their goods back into that country, which is such a huge economy because of how many people it's got. And, Albanese has slowly but surely, sorted things out there, and, you are starting to see that trade resume. It's a huge market, so you want that trade to resume. So, no one's saying that they're going to agree with everything that China does, but in the end, it is a huge market, and a lot of Australian businesses rely on that market to prop up their own business. And I think that stuff like that, he's done all right. So I'm not going to be overly critical, but as I say, things can change.
So in politics, they change overnight.
Anything changes.
Mr. Michael Pachi, thank you for your time. I know your time's very precious. I know.
No, that's all right. All good, guys. Well, Mario, best of luck.
He's just walked out the door because he's just doing something, mate. But yeah, I'll tell him that for you, mate.
Yeah. Good luck to him, and I mean, hopefully he gets that record.
And as you know, mate, there's a spot for community radio there's a spot for commercial radio. Let's face it, we're all in radio and we all try to do our best.
Absolutely, Dom, that's exactly right. All right, mate, well, I'll leave you to it.
Good to hear from you, friend.
Good on you, mate. I'll speak to you later.
See you later.
Bye, mate.
Bye. Welcome, everyone. We're back. That was Michael Pachi from 2GB and Channel 9 and everything. I knew him when he was looking after Fox Studios, Fox News, and he turned that place around when it came to news. Back to our guests.
We won't go into that right now.
So that's. I thought we'd get him on and talk about the last. Give him a go on the last couple of hours of our show here, which was fantastic. And I want to thank him again very much, Mike, for coming on air and being part of the Alive 90.5, breaking the world Guinness record for 56 hours. We're down to 1 hour and 15 minutes. We're doing well.
Yeah, phenomenal. Well done.
Yeah.
We're in the last stretch.
So we talked about the bullying. We talked about marriage. Just tell me a little bit about yourselves, a bit more about yourselves.
As I said, I'm from South Africa and have been in Australia for 10 years and was in New Zealand for 10 years. So with psychiatry. And but I'm moving out of it now into life coaching. Obviously, the psychiatrist skills will still be used in the life coaching. So, and I'm from a place called Anderberg. I don't know if you know in South Africa, the Drakensberg Mountains, at the bottom of that.
Yep.
And my background is a mixture of British and Zulu, and Zulu is my first language. So, I grew up at the time there in South Africa when we had apartheid, basically, because I was born in 48 and that's the beginning of apartheid, and which has recently been stopped. And apartheid really is just everything was separate, the race groups were separate.
Interesting years, the apartheid years.
Yeah. And I think Australia got involved with the rugby as well, because the Springboks were coming across. Yeah. And so, and as I said, I went to a boarding school, which was a Catholic school, basically. And then went to university in South Africa, Natal, University of Natal, did medicine. Then I worked as a GP for 5 years, and that was an interesting part of my life because working in Africa as a GP, you do everything, you know. One of the things I decided I won't do, because I opened my own private practice, I decided I won't deliver babies because it's a messy business and people can die and it's high risk. And sure enough, I ended up delivering a lot of babies because I had this lady that came in labor, and so I examined her, and then I told the person who brought her in that she needs to get to hospital now because she's dilated, she's about to deliver. And then he told me, well, he doesn't know her, he just was asked to deliver her, to bring her to me. And then I thought, okay, I'll have to take her to the hospital. And I put all the equipment in the back seat, sheets and things. And the baby came on the road, so we had to park the car. And so my first delivery was done in the back seat of the car. And after that, the word got around that we've got a new gynecologist here, which of course I wasn't. So that was an interesting part of my life in general practice, where you do in Africa, where you do everything.
Yeah.
So basically, that's my background. And then after 5 years of that, 6 years of GP, then I decided to specialize in psychiatry. Because I found in GP, the biggest problem was the psychiatry problem, the psychological problems, which I couldn't understand. And that's my story.
I was going to ask you a question when it comes to psychiatry. Is a psychiatrist, just say a person is convicted, killing 3 people. Right?
Yeah.
So they send them to a psychologist to see what the psychologist thinks. Are there special psychologists that are allowed to be those people to find out how they really think, or can any psychologist do that? Have you ever been down that path?
Yeah. In fact, after finishing psychiatry, I then specialized at 2 more years, or not another 5 years, to get a senior degree. And my senior degree is in forensic psychiatry. So it's to do with people committing crime. And why I did that was because South Africa had the death penalty.
Right.
So a lot of the people that were facing the death penalty, a lot of people would malinger, make up illnesses.
Yep.
And it was very difficult for us to sort out who was truly mentally ill and who was trying to get away from using mental illness. And so it's the forensic people that separate mental illness from true mental illness from malingering.
When you give an answer or a report on that, you really don't know. I'm trying to figure out, do you know that you are 100% convinced that that person did it? You know, like there's no way what he's told me that he hasn't committed that crime.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I love that track. Turn it off.
That's
mate.
my son. I need to turn it off. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question, Dom?
About when the report is made in regards to what you think about that person, whether you feel he's done it or he hasn't done it or he has this problem, do you feel 100% confident that your report going probably down on him being guilty or not guilty, how confident do you feel after you've have that final report on that person?
Yeah, our report didn't address whether he was guilty or not guilty.
No, I understand.
Our report addressed whether he was mentally ill at the time,
right,
and did not know what he was doing, versus whether at the time he was not mentally ill.
Right.
So that was where we tried. And the answer to your question is we have a good idea of malingering and not malingering from clinical practice and experience, but it's never 100%. It's never 100%. I'll just give you some examples. For example, you'd have most mentally ill people with major mental illness like schizophrenia and psychotic bipolar, really ill people. When you talk to them, they actually don't know they are mentally ill, and we call that lack of insight. So they would tell you that they're not ill. When you're treating people in hospitals, a big argument is, are they mentally ill or not mentally ill?
Well, basically something like anorexia. The girls...
That's like anorexia,
They don't believe that
they are. That's right. And so that's what happens. And it's a big problem. But now when somebody has committed a crime, suddenly they don't follow that pattern. Now they're saying they are mentally ill. Now you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the approach makes you, but it's a lot of little things. I really can't explain it, but it's from experience. But it's clinical things which, like for example, a person may present himself as being very mentally unwell, his thoughts are disorganized, etc. And yet his hygiene is really good. You see, the two don't match. Yeah. So it's a whole lot of things that come together. It's quite a difficult field, actually. Yeah.
You enjoy it?
Yeah. It's a challenge. Yeah.
A little bit about yourself. Where are we going to... You were saying where you want to head, but tell me a lot more deeper in what you're doing.
In what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of things. So when someone says, what do you actually
would you like
do? I always say, which part of me do you want to know right now? Because I also run and operate a business coaching business as well. And so I help entrepreneurs and small businesses scale sustainably. So hitting those 6 to 7 figure months and doing that so they can maintain their energy, they can maintain their drive, their motivation, and still have that passion in whatever industry they're in. And I've seen many industries. It's been really interesting. I've got e-scooter businesses, old people scooters. Harvey Bay's known for having the Guinness Book of Records for the most scooters in town. So it's great. It's an amazing industry.
But it's creating a bit of problem at the moment. There's people that agree, there's people that don't agree with it.
Oh, yeah, that's another controversial topic.
Yeah.
I absolutely love e-scooters. If you haven't tried it, go and try it. So at first I was really scared to get on one, and I seriously screamed down the street, and my daughter was laughing at me, and now I just absolutely love them. They're so eco-friendly and really easy to get around because in Queensland they're legal.
Yeah.
So you scoot around, you don't have to waste petrol, you charge charge it up, go around, go for a ride on the Esplanade, see people. It's amazing. And then I also help NDIS providers as well with helping people with disability. I've also got real estate agents and people that do rent rolls and valuations. So I see like a variety of different people on a day-to-day basis. So no day is the same for me, but a lot of people that do come to me are the high achievers, the workaholics, and it's about managing time. People always ask me, how do you have time to do everything? And I say, I don't say I'm busy. I say I make time for everything, just like making time here. Like I could make myself really, really busy, but I choose not to. I'm very strategic in how I utilize my time and how much time I want to use. And a lot of people come to me really overwhelmed and I go, well, I don't that magic pill to give you time. You need to have more boundaries and more structure in where you want to focus your time. Is this time used effectively for yourself? Do you need to delegate it? Do you need to outsource this? Do you really want to do what you need to do in your business? And I teach people how to work on their business rather than in their business, because a lot of people are scared. They don't like to have things out of their control. A lot of people tend to like to be in control, and it's about teaching people about their human core needs, and learning about trusting, learning about letting go and all of that sort of jazz. Other parts of me that I do, I'm president for a safe house in Hervey Bay. So we home women who are subjected to domestic violence, mental health and homelessness.
That'd be a big job, the way it is at the moment.
It is. It's huge. I am now seeing an influx of mums and kids sleeping in tents, sleeping in cars, just escaping negative situations, or they just go back to the homes to these violent situations. So it's really crazy what happens. And I see a lot of children suffering. I see a lot of families suffering. And we have, like in Hervey Bay itself, it's crazy. I was doing the stats because I'm doing a business plan currently right now to help with paying off the mortgage. So it's all volunteer based. I am the president for it. And what I want to do is help pay off that mortgage, but more importantly, helping these people in our community. When I was looking at the charge rates for DVOs and all of that, Queensland's percentage was 23% that have gone through the courts. In Hervey Bay, it's 103%. It's astronomical, the percentage. I said, what do we need to do in this community to reduce the risk, but also help our community members so they're not being violent with each other and working out things rather than turning to whatever the negative violence that is happening in our community. So, yeah, it's really important work. We've had 81 women go through the house. So it's only a 3 to 4 bedroom house. And there's 81 women that have gone through there. More recently, 3 women have moved out together because rental prices have gone through the roof. And so a lot of these single women cannot afford to live in these houses. They're, equal pay and all of that sort of, it depends on what industry they're in. But a lot of these women are vulnerable. They don't earn that much money. And so it was just beautiful to see women moving into houses and setting themselves up so they can live on in normal society and help each other out. So, yeah, it's a really interesting world that I live in. And then I also publish books. So I help people with knowing their worth, knowing that their story is important. It's a bit like radio, sharing stories and all of that. And I do that through book publishing. And since I've gone through that journey of publishing my own book, it's actually taught me to slow down in life, slow down a lot, because coming from Sydney and working in a fast-paced city and then moving up to Hervey Bay and then learning about the book world, it's about the journey rather than the destination and going through those ebbs and flows in life. So book publishing, I teach people to own their story, own their truth. And I've seen some phenomenal transformations where I've had a lot of people that come through to me have had near-death experiences, and just hearing how they've overcome such tragedy and still are doing the most phenomenal things in their communities, making a difference to children, inspiring people, whether it be talking on stage or doing they've created some cool program that's helping people with mental health or a product. It's really, really cool to share those stories, and then they get to spread those messages to others.
Coming back to what you said about you're doing a lot of work with businesses.
Yes.
How is that going? In my days, it was the in thing, get a person in to teach you, is there a sales manager or a marketing manager? You'd have management courses and have people like yourself that would come in and, apart from dancing on the table and doing all these weird things, I mean, like you often used to wonder, is this really helping me or it didn't help me? I mean, how has it changed these days, that type of thing in the business world? Have they taken to it more or they're doing less of it?
In what sort of sense? Doing more of what specifically?
Obviously they want to improve their business.
Yes.
Right? So people like yourselves are there to help them do that.
Yes.
So is there a hell of a lot of demand there because of the way business is going now? Or is it,
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of younger generations. Like I predominantly a lot of my clients are in the early 20s, and my head is blown because they're earning multi-million dollars, and it's teaching them how to utilize their time, but also trusting other people as well. Like a lot of trust come from a society where social media has been their thing, and a lot of things that I see is communication is lacking. So I teach a lot of clients about effective communication and also effective listening too, because a lot of people tend to say that they listen, and I do that with inverted commas, but they're not really listening. They're only listening to parts of what people are saying, and it's about listening to people really deeply or asking effective questions as well, so they understand what's happening in someone else's life and their reality. Because I always have a saying, the map is not the territory. So the way that I view the map of the world is different to the way that you view the map of the world. And when I start to unpack that with my younger clients, they're like, oh, I'm like, they don't know what's going on in your mindset. So you've got to unpack you need to get everything that's out of your mind. And these are the problems that I usually see. They have everything in their head and they haven't got it written down on paper. And I'm like, that's really great that it's all in your head. Are you expecting all your employees to be mind readers, are you? And then you're getting cranky at them because they're not doing their job properly. And so you're cracking it and cracking the whip and telling them off and this and that. I go, start communicating.
Have you found that there's more true managers now in your job, rather, like I'll tell you in my day, you were a sales manager. You were a sales manager, but your general manager, well, he wasn't there. He used to tell you to go and do those courses. These days, has it changed where the GM, the number one honcho in the company, wants to learn more about his company and how to improve it, and not just tell the sales manager or the marketing manager or the transport manager how to solve his problems and get better?
Yeah,
Has that become better?
I'm seeing much more of a holistic approach. Everybody's learning different things where their gaps are, and it's going into different companies and seeing where those gaps, where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are. I've also been hearing a lot about reverse mentoring, which has been really interesting. Have you heard the term before?
I get an idea of it, but you explain it better for me.
It's so usually you have your mentors who are older teaching the younger generation the job roles and what to do. But what they're doing in organizations now is they're getting older generation and the younger generation, and they're mentoring each other on their gaps and weaknesses, because our younger generation are so tech savvy. They're teaching the older generation how to be more comfortable with using technology and teaching them things. And then the older generation are teaching those old school ways and ways of being communication, for instance. And it's a really nice complement in these organizations that are doing this. So I promote reverse mentoring because it's great when you buddy up a younger person and an older person and get them working together, because then you get highly effective performing teams.
And the other question I'm going to ask you here, which is a little bit of a grey and white area, talking about people over 60. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Have the companies of this world realise that at 65 you don't retire? At 65 you might actually have a person that can really excite your company and make it work better?
Yeah, I'm all for diverse age ranges. I find that I've been a director and an operations manager myself, and also when I've gone into companies, when you see a mixture of it, you've got a diversified team, and sometimes they come with such wisdom, stories, and sometimes they'll know how to solve a problem better than what the younger ones do because they've never faced with those problems. So you've got a lot of lived experience, and I think a lot of society tend to delete that out. And I think it's really important to nurture our older generation because they're the ones that have seen it all. They've watched it happen over time to where it was to where it is now. And it's powerful to teach our younger generation that. And it's a matter of, like I said, communicating that really effectively.
I've been in multinational companies and in construction companies, mainly flooring and things like this, and national manager and sales manager. And I used to get so annoyed when my GM would be employing people and he'd say, I don't know, he's too old, he's old stuff. And it was a fight and a half to try to. They never said it that it's the age, right?
Yeah.
But I said, look, wouldn't you rather a person with 5 or 6 years of such a great background producing and implementing and being part of your system and improve it better, even if it's for 6 years, than have a person you've got to start from scratch, doesn't have to get up and go, and in a lot of cases, or moves on pretty quickly. And it was a big fight with me, just trying to put people on to give them a chance in that older bracket.
Yeah.
Has that changed? Because I retired about 2019.
Huge question. Based on what I've seen, it depends on which organisations, to be honest, whether they've got a young culture or they really embrace that diversity. So I think it goes by different companies and different structures. To be honest, I do hear that as well. But in all fairness, they say the statistics and some stats, they say that the younger generation will change their careers up to 15 times.
100%. I know my son's changed so many times already.
Yeah. And whereas, which is crazy. But then on top of it, if you have someone that's over 65, they're going to stay in that position for a long time. So you've got that loyalty, you've got that continuity, and you don't have to mentor the person. So that takes away all the training and stuff because they already know what they know, and they'll bring that level of understanding and knowledge. So for me, I think I love it. Whenever I've worked in companies, I've had at least two to three older people in there. And I used to call them if they were female, they were my mother hens. And they used to come in and just nurture. They just brought in that nurture into the space. And I loved it because they didn't put up with BS and they just said it how it was. No gossiping. And it was just nice. So I reckon embrace it. So I hope that there's heaps of organisations that still embrace it. I have to say I've been pretty fortunate where I have worked where it has been really diverse in age ranges.
Another book on the way?
Yes, there is. I've got another book. It's called Self-Love, Loving Your Soul, and that is with 23 authors. And I've got a few other books in the pipeline. I don't know which one's going to publish first for myself. I know I've got a gratitude one and a spirituality one. And currently right now I'm doing a 365-day of sobriety journey. So that's been interesting. No alcohol, given that we're in such an Aussie culture. Have a drink on Friday. So it's been really interesting to do that. So stay tuned.
Fair enough. A question on the other side here, which I'd like to ask. When you get a person in with a problem, how do you, the first stage of trying to actually find out what it's all about, or has she got a problem? How do you work on that?
Yeah, I tend to follow a certain pattern, and my pattern starts with childhood. Childhood is a very important part of, it goes through with us into our adulthood, and a lot of the problems often date back to this. So I often start with childhood and to try and understand the person, the relationship they had with everybody, and then find out about different aspects of the person. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You put things together.
Yeah.
It's, for example, it's what the person says, what the person chooses to say something about them, and what they leave out, say something about them. So you've got to be putting this thing all together. try and help the person, because quite often they're not aware of what their problem is. And so you've got to be putting it together for them.
As far as psychology goes, is it like being, I'll explain it like a drug addict or an abuser of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Do they have to accept the fact they've got a problem before they come and see you, or you'll never see them?
Some are sent by the courts, so they don't. Some
right.
people, they don't accept they've committed a crime, and they get sent to us. So some of them don't accept it, and that acceptance of having a problem is a big part of the healing. Because a lot of people will go forever without accepting that they've got a problem.
Right.
It's like. It's that insight thing. They can't see themselves. They just can't see themselves. And with drugs and alcohol, the two things that are showing up a lot in the literature is, one of them is lack of connection with other people. So it gets down to relationships again, just being connected. And the other thing is lack of having a true purpose in life. So those are the two big things that you work with when you work on drugs and alcohol. It's not just stopping the drink; it's what's driving it. Yeah.
And have you ever looked after any anorexia patients?
I have, but not. I have looked after anorexia patients, but we tend to have anorexia units.
Yep.
So I would see them initially and then transfer them to the anorexia unit.
You have a practice here, don't you, or is it overseas?
I practice here. Yeah.
And is it a private practice, or you're with a set of hospitals?
No, I practice it with hospitals. Yeah, I've done locums. Worked at the Gold Coast. Worked at Three Days Hospital. Different hospitals.
And you've obviously known Mario from the past, have you?
I know Mario through Hanchi.
All right. You mentioned that a few times.
Yeah, and very recently, I know Mario I think I met Mario about a month or two ago.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And that's where he come through, and then you've been on air with him, basically.
Yeah, he's asked for that's what's happened.
Yeah. It's been interesting, hasn't it? There's some interesting stuff here. Is there, just in your perception of what you do, a general question, do you 100%, like, people always say, unless you enjoy everything 100%, you don't enjoy what you do. Is that the same for both of you?
You can go first.
It's interesting. I mean, for years, I don't think I enjoyed my job that much, but I did it very well, and always did it well. But was it? I'll give you an example. In the old days, we're going back now, 60s, 70s, they used to have little tests. They used to have vocational guidance tests. I don't know if you ever heard of these.
Yeah.
But they put you through all these little tests, right? And in what they did with me, it always came out that it was either getting into the world of sales or that type of thing, or getting into the world of sports or things like that, or radio type work, right?
Yeah.
And of course, sports and radio, that was an issue, but I will talk a little bit about it. I was pretty good at that. I won't go into that this deeply, but I never was allowed to do it like I was supposed to do it. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. When I was under 12s and under 14s, I was captaining Alan Border. So I had some talent, right?
Yeah.
Telegraph Shield, I was in that. I was from the Watson Show. So that's the type of talent I had. But I had a father, which was very hard, and said, hey, go and get a real job. Don't worry about this stupid thing called sports. Go and do something which is worthwhile in your life, right? So I ended up going to uni and doing an economics degree and got my commerce degree, and I ended up in commercial selling, mostly in the area of construction. And in all those years, I really don't think I was very happy, but I did it, and I stayed alive and kept the wife alive and the kids alive. But the idea of what I did was always going back saying, I'd love to forget about the sport. I won't tell you this about the sport, but I had the opportunities and it didn't happen because of certain reasons. And the father had a lot to do with that, but don't worry about that. It was all good. But the second bit I'm going to bring up in the conversation is that radio was part of what I wanted to do. I wanted that type of lifestyle, and I never did it. So and then later on in life, I did do it. So it was a challenge. What actually happened, I had a niece that said, I love music. And she said, Dominic, Uncle Dominic, she said, forget it. You're 30-something years old. You're never going to be a DJ. You're never going to do any of that stuff. You're living a non-dream. So that's what got me into what I'm doing, because when I heard that, it was like something that went in my head and said, oh, well, I'll show them. So I went and did a course. I went and did a radio course. I went and did and you heard a little bit about started community radio. And I ended up and another thing I'll tell you in those days, it was the 80s. And I was paying off a home, and the home was about 23%. So it was hard to pay off a home. So I had to find other ways to work. And the other jobs I was doing, I wasn't getting much money. Then I said, doing this little DJing job, I was making one DJ job was making a week's worth of cleaning banks. So I thought, hey, I'm on a good thing here. So we started doing that. And then I ended up getting into 5-star hotels and DJing in the exclusive clubs in town, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Then I got into radio. But all those years, coming back to my question, I never really loved life, because I was doing what I really don't love. But now, after all those years, I'm doing what I really love. I'm asking the question, do you find that with most people, do they really like what they're doing? Or has it changed, the perception changed now, that people, if they don't like what they're doing, they go and do something else?
So, because I do a lot of life coaching, I do get a lot of people that are at the crossroads and they don't know what they want in life. They're like, what is my purpose? What will give me life satisfaction? And I'm a great example of that as well. Like, I resonate a lot with your story. Like, I had my family members saying, you know, I failed high school. I had dyslexia growing up in primary school and high school. That's a tough one. Yep. Couldn't read or write. So it was really hard for me. And here I am, an author and a keynote speaker. So it's a pretty massive, like, transformation and turning the impossible to possible, like Mario has been really promoting here.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, I got told, go into childcare, and because you're good at it. And I went to my preschool that I attended, and I did work experience, and I was good at it. Like, I was good. And I went, sweet. It was good. I made the kids happy. I was able to interact with them. Very bubbly, really energetic. A lot of people say that I'm a very energetic person. And yeah, I went through that pathway of the corporate world, doing what everybody told me to do. However, that life satisfaction wasn't there. I got Educator of the Year in 2013 because I was really great at changing things and being really innovative, and got my bachelor degree because, you know, I did my diploma. I came out with the highest scores, got innovation in the workplace. So, like, going from being illiterate to literate, I was like, oh, maybe I am on the right path. However, I wasn't really happy. There wasn't that life satisfaction on, you know, true life purpose. And when I was a little kid, I used to stand in front of the TV, and do you remember the show Young Talent Time?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely loved it. So I would get dressed up every single Sunday and perform in front of the TV. So I always wanted to speak. I used to force my sister in little classes and chat to her. I had heaps of toys in my room, and I used to line them all up. So I knew that I wanted to speak and perform and do something, and I used to do colouring in books. But because of having such struggles in school, I didn't know how to do that as a career path. And here I am now, writing books, publishing, speaking on stage, doing all those little imaginative play things that I was doing is now becoming my child's play, is now my reality and job, so to speak. But I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm playing now every single day.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when you're actually doing something you like. I don't know if you agree with this. You actually enjoy it. So the hours pass. And
Exactly right. So I always teach clients, think about what you did as a child. What did you play? Bring that inner child back out of you, because I think a lot of people have lost that inner spark within them, and they've conformed to whatever XYZ has told them to do because they saw this. Go back to, what did you do as a child? What did you enjoy? Or your hobbies or your aspirations and stuff? What did you used to say when you were growing up? What did you want to be? How come you didn't do that? and exploring that and then trying it out, taking that risk, taking those steps and diving deep. So
what I also found that I had to realise in my life, you got to let go of the past to move forward. You know, I was always living the past on things that happened to me.
Yeah.
And I always said to myself, oh, my old man, if it wasn't for my old man, I would have got for. But then I realised that's not true. But then you say to yourself, well, being of an Italian background, if your old man said, you're not doing that, like probably in South Africa.
Same story.
You didn't do it, man. Like, if you leave this house, I'll break your neck.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So, you know, you get to the stage, even when I was talking about sports, where you were particularly picked in something and you had to ring up the people and say, oh, I'm not allowed to represent the under-19s Australian side. I'm not allowed. You don't understand that. You know, like, that's how it was. And I often said, oh, that was my fault, but I don't think it was. I think it's you've got this mentality that says your father was the ultimate person, and I wanted to keep my father happy, so he wanted me to do a uni degree and go and have an education because he didn't have an education. So I mean, it's interesting just sifting it all out. But I just found I had to move forward and forget about the past. Now, I don't know if that's fair. Is that a fair comment?
You know, what's interesting, you've actually touched on a very important point. There's a large majority of people are not happy with their jobs.
Right.
Because their jobs don't reflect, if you look at people like, what's his name? Robert Greene, you know, the writer?
Yeah.
He's got a book on mastery is the name of the book. And he claims we've got a genetic uniqueness, which is what we should be following. But society doesn't allow us to follow that genetic. So our challenge is to find that genetic. It's actually in your genes that you are meant to do a certain thing. And unless you do it, you'll never be truly happy.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the truth for me.
And that's what happened to you. But you had to have courage to bridge it, especially later on.
Yeah.
And because we get caught with finances and mortgages and things like that, and sometimes you find that this is really not what I should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that's
the
right.
change becomes very difficult. Then you need to see the life coaching people to try and
so,
make the
in
change.
fairness, did you always want to be a psychologist?
I'll tell you what happened to me. I was in a country of no choices.
All right.
You know.
This is interesting. I think this will be an interesting story.
And I first went to an African school where we spoke Zulu. And so when we went to the colored school, for some mixed race, the colored school we call it, there they spoke English. But I was giving the answers in Zulu. You know, I had done a few years in the Zulu speaking place. And then when I went to this English speaking school, I gave the answers in Zulu. You know, they'll show a picture of a cat and I'll answer in Zulu, you know.
That's not done, right?
Yeah. So I got demoted but when I was demoted, I was then in the same class as my younger sister, who was a year younger than me. And to make matters worse, my sister sort of came first in that class for the year. You know, we had this positions when I don't know if they still have them now. We used to have positions for first, second, third.
Oh, yeah. Even though that's changed now.
It's changed now, yeah. So my sister came first, and I was like somewhere around 16, 18 in the class. And my parents made a big fuss of this, you know. They had a Pass feast, they killed a chicken, and they made a big fuss. There was cakes and drinks, etc. And I vowed then that my sister will never beat me in academic work again. And I started studying.
Right.
So that's class 1. And to do that, and what actually happened is as my life went along, I was a guy who'd play soccer and then go and study. You know, study and play soccer. I was combining things.
Yep.
And then so for South Africa, I was one of the top students for the final year of, and so for medicine, they were only taking 4 people that were coloreds. And so I was one of them. So I didn't choose it. I was told, you go and do medicine. So
sounds familiar.
Yeah, you go and do. But the answer to you is that what I've discovered later on is that really wasn't my calling. Medicine is like, it's a technical job. You help people, they've got these signs, these symptoms, and you give them this stuff and that stuff. But that wasn't, I'm more in the, which I've discovered a bit late as well, more in the...
Yeah, keep on going. Yeah. Don't stop talking. Yep.
Yeah, in the writing of books and in the art kind of things, solving problems. That's really my thing with that. And I've developed a course in for in mental health that simplifies mental health, because that's where my talent is simplifying things. So it took me a long time to find out where I really fit in. Yeah. So the answer to your question is that a lot of people are not doing what they should be doing.
Fair enough.
And they're aware of it.
And over to you, Mario. Mario's in the house.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Not like Elvis is not out of the house; is in the house. Special moment.
Okay. So I'd just like to say, guys, I started this journey on 29th of April, 11 a.m. It was the journey of nerves, and it was a truly challenge for myself, because after all, being 51 years old, not sleeping for 60 hours, it's a big thing for myself. But that being said, I'd like to say first of all, thank you to everybody on Alive 90.5, to presenters and the board for coming forward and telling me that I can use the station. I'd like to say thank you everybody around this official attempt to break the world record of 53 minutes and 53 hours and 1 minute, 53 hours and 1 minute. Wishes. And I'd like to say thank you everybody. And I'm calling, it's this very moment, 6:26 on the 1st of May. I'm done officially. And thank you, Guinness World Record. Thank you everybody.
So Mario, how many hours exactly, so we know? So the station...
55 hours and 25 minutes. Yep.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. And thanks for putting Alive 90.5 on the map with a special Guinness Book of Records attempt. And thank you very much, my two last guests.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I want to say thank you to Mario and congratulations on what a huge milestone.
Yeah, it is. It's, I think it's been fantastic. And it's very, very hard to do what he's just done.
Can you guys hear me if I speak?
Yes. Yeah. You're on still.
Yep, we're on. We're still on air here.
So for those who didn't hear me earlier, my name's Pete Fairbairn. I'm here as an officially authorised Guinness World Records adjudicator to oversee Mario Bekes' attempt of the longest audio live stream.
That's the one.
I tell you, he's struggling over there, mate.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Mario, and everyone involved with the attempt, I want to commend you on, what's been an extraordinary test of strength, mental, organisational, physical, I'm sure, and a lot of, many hands making light work, but ultimately, one individual more than any other who's put in the hardest of yards amongst many who've given their time. For a record of this nature, there's a lot of different evidence that has to satisfy the requirements of the record attempt. So I've been able to go through not only independent witness statements, some of the planning, working very closely with Mario and Teresa around the validity of the attempt and ensuring that every step of the way that their plans adhered to the very strict guidelines associated with this attempt. And having spent significant time here in the studio today, being able to witness what's occurring and listen to what's occurring, and also follow up with some key questions around evidence that's still to be submitted, and having confidence in the ability of that evidence to be submitted. The current record for the longest audio live stream is for 53 hours, which, as you know, was set in Bradford in the UK in July 2020. You started this attempt at 11 a.m. on Saturday, April the 29th, and have just officially concluded your attempt on Monday the 1st of May at 6:26 p.m. Based on the evidence that I've received and what I've been able to witness myself, I'm taking that as a reading of 55 hours and 26 minutes. So with that in mind, I'm really pleased to confirm that this has been a successful Guinness World Records title attempt. Mario, you're officially amazing. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mario.
Thank you, guys. I'm a little bit, okay, so I didn't sleep and all this, and I just want to say thank you, Pete, for all of this. Thank you, everybody on a live before. Thank you all. I can't even say something. This is a big thing for me, and this is for my son Matteo. I know he doesn't understand many things, but he understands them. Thank you, Alive. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, guys. Woohoo! Thank you so much. Oh, my God, World Record Day in Alive 90.5! Guys, that's the... Thank you. Thank you so much.
To all our listeners out there, we've just broken that attempt. This is Alive 90.5. How happy are we, folks?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Booking is for free. That will cost you guys.
For every photo, he wants $10. Here comes the money.
Congratulations, guys.
We can play music now. You know what?
How do you do that, mate? I forgot.
I forgot how to play music. I don't know if you've been for a while. My brain's jello.
Yeah, mate.